Hey, everybody. Good to see you all. So let's get making this because there's two steps. We have to make the crust. Oh, she saw Yuki. Come here, Yuki. You want to say hi? Come here. Let's say hi. Okay, we'll get this out. Come on, come over here. Here's Yuki. he's he's already he's already been out for a walk. He's getting so big. And here's Tori. Tori, you need to say hi too. Tori's a little bit easier to pick up. They're just playing. I wish Toshi would come in. You never see Toshi. Oh, there he is. Come here, Toshi. They need to see you too. Come here. Sorry, we'll get cooking here in a minute. This is what's important for the dogs. Oh, Toshi. Toshi. Oh, Toshi's going to be 2 years old tomorrow. So tomorrow is his birthday. And for his birthday, I'm going to take him for a walk. So Toshi gets to go for a walk for his birthday. I don't take him for that many walks because I've been trying to train Yuki, the puppies, trying to train them. So poor old Toshi, he's already been through all the training. So I don't take him because he already knows how to heel and act good on walks. I haven't been taking him lately. So anyway, it's his birthday and I'm going to do something special with him. I'll make him some kind of special dog treats or something, but he's a really sweet dog. So let's make our crust. And it starts with 2 cups of almond flour. I've already measured things out just because that's easier. And somebody's at the door, package delivery or something. Sorry. 1/2 cup of oat flour. And this kind of stuff, almond flour you can buy like that. And then usually with the oat flour, you can make oat flour yourself, or you can buy it in the bulk section of the grocery store. This one I bought, but you can just grind up oats and make your own oat flour. Looks like we have about 16 people on this live. Is for anybody to watch. It's not for just the people that have subscriptions that are paid. I thought since it's coming up on Thanksgiving, I would make the next few videos free for everybody to watch just because. Okay, and this has 2 tablespoons of sugar, and I'm using organic cane sugar. You could use date sugar. You can use all kinds of stuff. Dorothy says, so cute. The dogs. The dogs are so much fun. I'm crazy about my dogs. They really are my life, and I don't make any apologies. They make life so much fun, and they're here all the time. They're boxers, so they're very sweet and loving. Okay, this is a teaspoon of baking powder. They hang around us no matter what we do. 4th teaspoon of baking soda, 4th teaspoon of kosher salt. And I'm going to take all these dry ingredients and whisk them together. Back in home economics in 1970, that's how old I am. Terry says, hello, Chef Julia, watching while heading to Chicago. Wow, Chicago, that's quite a trip. Thanks, Terry. Thanks for watching. Terry Malnar has been a long time follower, and she's actually been to my house for a retreat, an 8-hour retreat. And then I saw her at a conference in August in Las Vegas, and she posted today or yesterday that she made my snack mix, which I thought was really nice because I guess she's taking it on her trip. Are you eating the snack mix, Terry? The snack mix is like a Chex Mix, but it doesn't have butter in it. It doesn't have anything with animal products in it, and it's a little bit healthier, even though it's got tahini in it, and it does have, it's a little salty, and it's got nuts, and it's not a health food for sure. A teaspoon of vanilla. This is the last of our pecan pie bars. So Terry, I hope you're enjoying the snack mix. When you posted about you making it, a bunch of people then said, oh, I have to make that. She says, I'm trying to wait till we share it with our friend. Yeah, that's a good plan because once you start eating it, it's hard to resist. Okay, 1 teaspoon of vanilla and then 1/4 of a cup of almond butter. So in our crust, we're using almond butter because we don't use like traditional shortening or butter. So we're using almond butter to kind of bind it together. And then we're going to start putting in a little bit of almond mix. And I don't know exactly how much it's going to take. I think maybe it's like 3 tablespoons. We'll just add it as needed. We won't add it all at once. I'm just going to use a spoon to mix this up. Okay, looks like 21 people are watching. That's outstanding. I love that. So I'm going to try to make more of the Thanksgiving related recipes over the next few days. I know I told you I would start doing that this month, earlier this month, and I never did. I got caught up in making all the other things I was making, and then I never did make a lot of Thanksgiving things. The only thing I made that was remotely related was the crispy pecan cookies. I made those a few days ago and, tried to give those away so I wouldn't eat them all. But I started thinking about what could I make this weekend that I could use for Thanksgiving and, not have to, and then it would still taste just as good. And one thing I had made before is I made these pecan pie bars. And I was debating on whether to make these this year or to make the pecan pie. And these are so close to it. Let's see. Sweet potatoes, please. Paula said, yes, I'm going to make those. In fact, I've got that. I've got a schedule for next week of what I'm going to make. Had some almond butter on my hand. I'm going to make, I don't have that schedule with me, but Wednesday I'm going to make the sweet potato casserole. So that will be Wednesday. I'm going to put 3 more tablespoons. It's very dry. It has to be moist enough that I can spread it on the parchment paper, but not so moist that it's too sticky. So yeah, I'm going to make the sweet potato casserole on Wednesday. But I think I shared this here on Substack and on Facebook that all those recipes, Thanksgiving recipes, are available on my website. And the recipe is called Thanksgiving Feast, plant-based Thanksgiving Feast. You can buy the whole recipe packet. Let's see, somebody else has joined. You can buy that whole recipe packet on my website, chef-julia.com, and have all those recipes already. You don't have to wait for me to do it live. Those are recipes that I haven't really published in other places just because it was a class that I taught, a paid class that I taught on Zoom a couple of years ago. Okay, so now see how my crust is real crumbly and it'll stick together. So that's what you want. You want it to get to a point where you can flatten it down and it stays like that. You don't want it to be dry to the point where you couldn't get it to stick together. So once we have it in this state, we can just plop it in the pan, and then we just have to use our hand to smash it down. And you've seen, and I have my pan is lined with a piece of parchment paper that I cut to fit the bottom of my pan. But you've done this before. You've made things, I bet, that required patting down a crust on something. So it's no different from what you've probably made other kind of recipes. The only difference is we're not using butter. The typical recipe for this kind of bottom crust of a cookie or a bar is butter, sugar, flour, eggs, but we're using almond butter and we're using almond flour, a little oat flour, so it's got some oats. We're using the almond butter. I said that already. A little vanilla flavoring, a little bit of sugar to give it a little sweetness, salt, not a large amount. And this is a little tedious, this pressing down the crust, because we're trying to spread it. And it's not the kind of thing that wants to just spread out easily. So you watch me, I'm just kind of patting it and I'm spreading it as I'm patting it. And, it's not that easy, but it's not hard either. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to cover it all up with our pecan filling. So as long as it's spread to the edges, and you do want to spread it to the edges, and if your hands start getting sticky, the thing to do is wet them a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit. And then when you wet your hands, then you can continue on. They kind of will get sticky as the crust builds up on your hands. If it does, it kind of makes it hard to remove them from patting down. So now I've got it to the point where everything is covered, but this one corner, that one's stuck to my hand kind of bad. So Almost there. One little spot there. And this corner, I see a thick part in the middle. So that's my surgery there. I just moved it over to that corner. And I see a thin area here. So I'm taking the thicker part in the middle that didn't spread out as much, and I'm moving it to the corner. So be sure and think about that when you're doing this. If it gets to the point where it's thick in the middle and not spreading as well to the sides, you can take the thicker areas and kind of move them to the corners. That's my secret that sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. Okay, there now every part is covered with the crust, and we've got to get it in the oven, and it's going to take, I see one more little part. Okay, sorry that took so long. So now, except the tongue's speaking, now we're going to throw this in the oven for 14 minutes at 350 degrees. 27 people are on. That's a lot of people. So about 14 minutes. It's at 350 degrees. I'll put my timer on because if I don't, I'll get to talking and I will not remember the time. So, all right. That was the hardest part of this whole recipe, is getting that crust just right. The rest of it is a lot easier, trust me. So we get to the filling, and this is going to taste so much like pecan pie. It's going to be great because the crust from my pecan pie in my Thanksgiving recipe packet is very, very similar to this. So with the filling, we have to start by crushing up this cup of pecans, and I'm going to put it in the food processor, which if you've been watching me, you know it's right behind me, and it may make a tiny bit of noise, but it won't be long, so it won't last long. We're just going to kind of turn this into like this on flour. That was fast. If you really want a good food processor, I highly recommend the Vitamix, because I got this Vitamix blender, and you can get a food processor container that goes with it. And it's in my Amazon store. If anything that I use you have questions about, I have an Amazon storefront. It's if you Google Chef Julia Amazon store, it will pop right up. And there's an Amazon list, or an idea list, they call it, a little section for every class I've ever taught, for general equipment, for baking stuff. So pretty much, because, when you do what I do, people will always ask you, where did you get that? What are you using? What is that equipment? So I made, the Amazon storefront so that people can find the stuff that I need. Okay, so I have my pecan halves, and I process them until they're like a course meal. And then I'm going to add a cup of chopped pecans. So I chopped these pecans earlier today. It's a cup. And I'm going to set these aside. So this is the pecan part of our filling. But we're also going to add some other ingredients, and I'm going to put them in a different bowl and add them in a minute. So in this other part, we're going to be adding, I'm going to move this to the side. I'm trying to get all my spacing right. Let's see. If you have any questions, love the blouse. Oh, thank you. This is my fall color blouse. It has all, and I like the sleeves because they kind of, anyway, I got it last year, I think. Okay, so the rest of this is in a separate bowl, combined maple syrup. This is 3/4 of a cup of maple syrup, not maple flavored syrup. So, always know that you don't want to have the kind of fake syrup. And let's see, got 28 people. Great. If you have any questions or comments, I can read your comments very easily. I've got this system set up now where I can cook, I can talk, I can show you what I'm doing, I can do it all. And it's so easy, and it makes me want to do it every day because it's not complicated. And that's why I'll keep doing it. Okay, so then we're going to add the maple syrup, and now I have 1/4 of a cup of date syrup. I'm going to add that. It's kind of sweet. This is a very sweet recipe. So, like I said, it's not necessarily a health food, but we're talking about Thanksgiving desserts. So when you're going to the party, the house, the family dinner, or having people over, and you want to have something for dessert that you can eat that has no butter, eggs, shortening, tons of sugar, then this is the kind of thing that you can either bring, make, or have for yourself so you have a sweet treat. And I don't mind doing that. I think it's good. I don't sit around and eat this stuff all the time, but for a special meal, I don't mind, having a couple of bars. Why do you use both maple and date syrup instead of just all maple syrup? Oh, just to add that little color. See, that date syrup is dark and it has a little bit different flavor. So I just like to mix it. There's no real reason. You could use all maple syrup if you wanted to. Okay, then we're going to put a half a teaspoon of cinnamon in here. Get a measuring spoon. And then it uses a teaspoon of vanilla. And with my teaspoon done, it disappeared. So we'll do 2 halves. You can always adjust people's recipes. You don't have to be hung up on the recipe. My Middle Eastern store sells date molasses. Is that the same as date syrup? Probably not. Date molasses may have some different flavor in it to make it to consider it molasses. I'm not sure what that would be, but it's probably not exactly the same. If I were going to use it, I would taste it and make sure you like it. Okay, we're going to add some flax seeds. I have 3 tablespoons of ground flax seeds already measured out. And the flax seeds are going to help this develop into a thick filling. Like when you have pecan pie, you're able to cut it and the filling doesn't drip out. Well, that's what the flax seeds will do. It acts as a binder. So in normal pecan pie, they probably use eggs as a binder. I haven't made regular pecan pie in so long, I don't even know anymore what's in it. Okay, then 1/4 a cup of almond milk. And I just happen to still have it poured here. Put that in there. Just going to put in some almond butter. So I have some more almond butter for this. And again, that holds it all together, the almond butter, the flax seeds. Are these freezable? Yes. Glenda, you can freeze this thing like what I plan to do, because I'm going to serve this next week for Thanksgiving for one of the desserts. And I'm going to talk about everything I'm going to make and how I'm going to prepare it when I have this in the oven. So we can wait while it's cooking. And if you get bored and you don't want to hang around with me while I talk about Thanksgiving recipes, I completely understand. Let me get the rest of the stuff in here. 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And then I have some whole wheat pastry flour, but I'm not going to add that until this is all mixed up. Because once this is all mixed up, I'm going to add the flour to the pecan mixture. So I'm not going to forget that. Okay. Yeah, so while this is cooking, I'm going to talk about all the things that I'm going to make and what you can freeze and what doesn't freeze and what you should wait and make the day you're going to eat it or the day before and just everything, because that's important. It's really hard to make a big dinner or have a bunch of people at your house and then you want to make 10 different things. And how do you have everything ready at the same time? That's kind of the thing that gives people stress for holiday dinners, because they're thinking, 10 people are going to be here and I have to make, 6 or 7 different dishes or more. And how am I going to make sure everything comes out at the same time, especially if you have limited oven space and all that kind of stuff. So here we go with this is that liquid. This is the almond milk, flaxseed, almond butter, and vanilla. Lots of maple syrup, date syrup. You saw me do it. It's all, excuse me, all those liquid things are now in here. And now we can add our 2 tablespoons of whole wheat pastry flour. Maybe use a little bit bigger spatula. Hi, Eileen. See you're on there. Sonia. A lot of the same people. Susie. Glad you guys are here. Looks like there's 31, 31 people, which is great. So we're making pecan pie bars, plant-based, no dairy, no butter, no oil, no eggs. So it's kind of like, wow, how do you make a pecan pie equivalent without all those things? Well, we're making them with almond butter, flaxseed. This is whole wheat pastry flour, 2 tablespoons. Whole wheat pastry flour, you can buy it at Whole Foods. And I ordered it online because I didn't see it in the store, but it's not hard to find. And it's just a real lightened version of whole wheat flour. They probably sift out some of the bran. Vicky joined. Hi, Vicky. And that's going to thicken this up so that when we spread it on top of our crust that's in the oven and has another 4 minutes, we're going to just pour this on top of the crust and we're going to put it back in the oven for about 25 minutes. First, we're going to decorate it though. So, all right, so this is all nice and mixed up. And then what we're going to do when we put that on top of our crust is we're going to top it with some pecan halves. Remember all those pecans I got from Oliver Pecan? So I still have lots of those, and I'm going to use those for Thanksgiving, for my Thanksgiving desserts, for the pecan pie bars, also for the topping for the sweet potato casserole. And I've already made cookies with them. So Oliver Pecan in San Saba, Texas is where I went to get my pecans. And you can order pecans online. So you can go to their website, Oliver Pecan Company, and they'll send you this is a 3-pound bag of pecan halves. And they'll also, one thing I love to get is they'll send you a 5-pound or 10-pound bag of whole pecans, and they've cracked them. So they're cracked just enough that you can get the pecans out of the shell real easily. So they're still in the shell, but barely in there. So you can put out a bowl back in the old days when I was a kid, many years ago. I'm 71, so that would have been, 1964. I remember things like at all the holiday dinners, people had bowls of nuts and nutcrackers out. Does anyone remember that? Like we didn't eat processed food so much. You kind of had to work for your food. So they would put out a bowl of nuts that hadn't been cracked at all and nutcrackers, and you would crack walnuts, pecans, hazelnuts, Brazil nuts, every kind of nut you could think of. And you'd have to crack it and work at it. And then you'd finally get it open and you'd eat the nut. Well, I think that guaranteed that you didn't eat so many nuts because you had to work. Let's see. Yes, Filberts. That was my favorite. Yeah, Filberts are those the ones that have they're kind of like a softer shell? I think they are. So when you get the pecans, I'm going to go get them. I'm going to leave it here in a minute. That's a pretty tacky thing to do. I apologize. I usually don't do that, but I had to go get these. So this is what I'm talking about. You get the pecans. We did that at the holidays, Dorothy said. And when you get them, they're kind of like this. They're partially open. So then you take this little tool and it's really easy to get the halves out. But the other thing about this, hey dogs, the other thing about this is these pecans have just been picked recently and they taste amazing. They taste totally different from the pecans you buy in the grocery store that have been in a bag in a storage building for who knows how long. And by the time you get them, they may not even taste like pecans anymore. And I've had that happen. So think about going to a pecan orchard or this Oliver Pecan Company in Texas. You can call them and order cracked pecans or already pecan halves and have your own. And I get real excited about that because it's a seasonal thing. It's not something that, it's moving some stuff out of my way. It's not something that you can get every day. Fall is the season for it. And that's when you get it. And then, you don't eat it again. You don't eat a lot of pecans again until the next year. So that's kind of a seasonal way of eating, which I really like. Let's see, we have, oh, it's 15 seconds, so we'll go ahead and take this out. When you turn it off, oh yeah, I could see it's nice and brown. It's got some color to it, and this is what I want. You can see it. Smells really good. It's got nice color. Then I'm just going to pour the filling on top of it. Kind of spread it out as I'm pouring it. This is going to be really good. So this is very easy recipe, a lot easier than pecan pie because all we had to do was we just had to spread that on the bottom of this pan. We didn't have to figure out how to roll it out, make it pie crust shaped. We didn't have to do any kind of complicated stuff. And then all we have to do is bake it. Once it's baked, we can we let it cool before we cut it. But once it's been cooled, think of how easy it would be to cut this up and freeze it. You just freeze the already cut up pieces. And it's not very thick, but it will thicken up as it cooks. And the last part is we're going to decorate it with the pecan halves. This is going to take a second so we can talk about things while I'm doing this. And that was a mistake to wear this shirt because my sleeves are kind of getting into the syrupy mixture. Not a good thing. So does anyone have any questions about anything? Are you making anything with pecans this year? And if so, what do you like to make? And what things did you enjoy eating growing up if you're not making something? So I'm just going to kind of line these up. I don't know if you could see this. I'm just kind of lining them up across my pan. And if you're not making something with pecans, are you making something with pumpkin? It's really hard. I will say this. It's really hard to make things pumpkin-based and have them be sugar-free, oil-free, egg-free, butter-free. There's just something about all those things that usually, if the taste that you're used to with pumpkin requires usually a lot of dairy and different things like, the pie that I used to make for my kids and the family was always kind of a evaporated milk. The one on the can of canned pumpkin, there was a recipe and it would be like Libby's pumpkin pie, and it involved a lot of sugar, evaporated milk. I believe it had eggs, and I can't remember what else, but it was very dairy forward. So trying to make pumpkin pie with almond milk and flaxseed, there's just something about it that never really tasted all that great. However, I do have a good pumpkin recipe, and I'll share it once I get this done and in the oven. So it looks like we have about 36 people, which is great. And this is recording, so you may be watch the recording of it on YouTube or on Substack or wherever. That pecan doesn't look very pretty. I'm trying to pick out the ones that don't have any little chips on them. So this is exciting because I'm going to have one of my desserts already made. Don't make the mistake of waiting until the day you have people coming over to start making everything because you'll be so stressed out. I used to do that kind of thing when I was younger, and I just didn't really know how to space things out and make things in advance. I really just didn't have the education. Hadn't gone to culinary school yet, didn't have the experience, so I would try to make everything like the day before and the day of, and I didn't really know how to maintain or make ahead stuff and keep it. Like, I've learned a lot about what you can make ahead and how you can keep it, but I didn't know those things. So the day of the event, the big dinner, my family coming over, friends, you also have to clean your house. Okay, get flowers, I mean, there's a lot of things to do. I think I missed one corner over here. Wow, this looks good. I think it looks good. Do you think it looks good? Okay, look, here we go. There is our pecan bars and I've got the pecan halves. And I'm going to put this in and I'm going to chick it in about 20 minutes because I don't want to overcook it. It's only on 350, but it's always good. It's always good to check whatever you have before the cooking time is up. What other things do you make ahead? Okay, so let's go through that. If you guys want to stay on here until my pecan pie bars are done, and I understand if you don't want to because how boring. Some of my stuff can be kind of boring because you're waiting for things to happen. And, who wants to wait around for stuff to happen? I'm going to move this up closer so I can see your comments easier. So let's talk about things that we're making and what you can make ahead and what holds well. And I have all my recipes from my classes are in binders. So one thing is desserts are really good about, being made ahead. Desserts lend themselves well to being made ahead. So like pecan pie bars are really good for making ahead because you can put them in the freezer and they're fine. I have a recipe that I'm making called pecan or pumpkin pie crumble. And this recipe is from Monkey and Me Kitchen Adventures. It's not one of my recipes, but I believe my friend Nancy brought it last year to my Thanksgiving. So I liked it so well that I'm going to make it for my Thanksgiving again this year. And this one, I think you could freeze this one. She doesn't say, or that whoever created this doesn't really say on there. I think this is probably something I'll make the day of. It says refrigerate leftovers, reheat in a microwave. So I think I'll make the pumpkin pie crumble on Thanksgiving Day, but I bet you could make it a couple days ahead. But if it tastes better warm, then it will probably need to be warmed up. So you could try that one. So let me kind of go through what I'm making and how I'm going to store it. So in my recipe packet called Plant-Based Thanksgiving Feast, it's available, like I said, on my website. I'm late today. I just need to watch the replay. Love your videos, Julia. Thanks, Char. I appreciate that. I made pecan pie bars. And so if you can watch, you'll see the whole process. And I'm going to post the recipe. So remember, on Substack, how I post the recipe is every day I do a post about my progress report. And what I'm going to do is at the top of that report every day that I post it, if there's a recipe demo, I'm going to put the name of the recipe, Pecan Pie Bars, and then it'll say Day 13, Chef Julia 21-Day Challenge. And I'll have a link to this replay, and the whole recipe will be in that post. So everybody will be able to find it. And today, since I'm doing this live stream for everybody will get it. And you'll be able to go back and find it very easily. So on my Thanksgiving feast class, and it's available at my website. If you can't remember this or can't find it, send me an email and I'll send you the link. My email address is juliadunaway@gmail.com. You can always email me if you have questions about anything, and I always answer. Okay, I have an appetizer tray with appetizer cheese spread with cranberries. I highly recommend you make this because it's really, really delicious. You take cashews and soak them, add some almond flour, and then you put it in a plastic wrap and shape it in the shape of a log. And then put some cranberries in it too, some dried cranberries. So anyway, the toppings, this is kind of confusing. The toppings are pecans, again, using the pecans and dried cranberries, and you roll the cheese log in that. This type of thing is so popular. I made that same kind of cheese ball thing for a big dinner party, and nobody there was plant-based except for me. And it had I made the charcuterie board, and it was kind of a traditional one. It had, pepperoni and sausage and stuff on it. And it had a little plant-based section with hummus and my cashew cheese balls. And these people kept saying, I listened to them talking, and they're like, oh, this cheese ball over here is really good. I don't know what it is, but I really love this. And then people started asking me, what kind of cheese is that? I said, oh, that's my plant-based cashew cheese ball. And they loved it. So make this for sure. stuffed pickled jalapeno peppers. You can make these a day before. I took pickled jalapeno peppers and cut them in half. And I used the same cheese thing as the cheese log, that same mixture. And I filled the halves of jalapeno peppers with it because I had been to a Thanksgiving potluck or something and somebody had made cream cheese stuffed jalapeno peppers. And I thought they were so delicious. I wanted to have my own, and they were good. They're really good. A relish tray. A relish tray just means you take a lot of raw vegetables, olives, pickled jalapenos, pickled beets, radishes, and you just put them in a pretty glass tray. And it's just kind of a crunchy pickled element to go with all the rich food. Because when you're eating Thanksgiving food, typically it was very, brown gravy and potatoes and turkey. But since mine is not so brown, it's a lot healthier. I still like to have the relish tray because it reminds me of my parents. They always had a relish tray. It's one of those things that if you're not, an older person, you probably don't even understand what the whole point is of it. But I like it and I'll keep having it. You can I'm going to make a veggie loaf this year, and I'm going to try something new. There's a veggie loaf in my Thanksgiving recipe packet. For me, I think that's something you should make the day of because I think it would taste better. Make it in the morning and then you can just warm it up later, but I still would make it I'd make it either the day before or the day of. I just think it tastes better like that. And this year I'm going to make a new veggie loaf. It's going to be made from how I make my best veggie burgers. And I'll let you know how it turns out, but instead of making them into veggie burger patties, I'm going to shape them into a loaf pan and bake it in the oven. I think it's going to be good. So some other things in this recipe packet for Thanksgiving are broccoli rice casserole. And you don't have to make all the things in this recipe packet. It was everything that people told me they wanted to make. And then I came up with a plant-based, oil-free recipe. So the broccoli rice casserole is really good. It has, does have like a cashew sauce. So if you're familiar with the broccoli rice casseroles that people bring to Thanksgiving dinners, they're kind of creamy broccoli and rice with some other vegetables, maybe some mushrooms and different things. So that's what this is. And it's really good. It's very good if you like that kind of thing. Then I made an apple and oat dressing with sausage. So this is like a typical dressing, like the old-fashioned bread dressing or stuffing that people would call it. And in order to have the flavor of a sausage kind of element in it, I made an oat and brown rice sausage. And that is what goes in with this cubes of bread, celery, onions, and then all the Thanksgiving seasonings like sage and thyme and vegetable stock. So basically what it turns out to be is like your old-fashioned family dressing, except instead of having meat and eggs or whatever people put in their dressing, it has little chunks of sausage patties made from brown rice and oats. Sweet potato casserole can be made a couple days ahead of time because you can just put it in the refrigerator, but reheating it takes a long time. So that's the thing. If you make these things the day before, count on quite a bit of time for it to reheat because it's a very dense dish. So yes, you can make sweet potato casserole the day before, but then realize like I'm making it the day before on Wednesday. Then when I get ready to start preparing for the meal, I'm going to put it in way ahead of time. I'll put the oven on low, probably like 300, and cover it with a lot of foil and then let it heat up at a lower temperature so that by the time it's time to eat, it's hot all the way through. Green bean casserole with crispy onion topping. So you know how everybody eats that awful green bean casserole that you see advertised for all the soup companies where it's got, mushroom soup and half and half and a ton of cheese with canned green beans or fresh green beans, and it's all put together in a casserole dish, and then they cover it with fried onion rings from a can. Now, I'm sure some of you ate that or made that for your family. I know I made it for my family because my kids liked it. And so they would always say, oh, make that green bean casserole. Well, I can't make that anymore. I'm not going to make that anymore. So my substitute for that is I made green bean casserole with my own crispy onion topping. That you can make the day before and reheat. Nothing wrong with that. But remember, you have to reheat it. Don't put the crispy onions on until right before you eat it. So, and it doesn't, it tastes really good. I mean, it's not the same as the one from your childhood, the one with the canned soup and whatnot, but it still tastes really good. And the crispy onion topping is just shallots, which are like little onions, and they're sliced super, super thin, and then they're cooked on a baking sheet until they get crispy, and they make a really good topping. Another really good make-ahead thing that you wouldn't even think of, but I learned this from a chef friend of mine named Judy Bird, who she started a cooking school here at Fort Worth, and she also did cooking classes for people all the time. But she told me this: if you make mashed potatoes, and my mashed potatoes, I make them with Yukon Gold potatoes and plant milk or cashew milk or something. I use cashew milk because it has a neutral taste. So you boil your potatoes, and then I use a ricer. I don't mash them. A ricer is like a little contraption where you put the potatoes in and you pull something that mashes them through these little round holes. So you end up with really fluffy potatoes. And so I make all the mashed potatoes, and I put them in a bowl and put them in the refrigerator. You could do this 2 days before, the day before. And then when it's time to eat, about, I'd say, an hour before dinner, all you have to do is get a pot of simmering water. So, pretend like there's a pot here with water in it. You take your bowl of mashed potatoes, pretend like this is a bowl with mashed potatoes. It's covered with foil, and you set it over the pot of simmering water. So it should fit on the top of your pot, and the water's underneath. Make sure you keep the water in it. And what happens is, excuse me, I'm sorry, the potatoes will reheat, and they won't change the base. Those mashed potatoes are my family's favorite. Terry says, thank you, Terry. By heating them up in the pot, over the pot of simmering water in a foil covered bowl, what happens is the potatoes don't change their texture. They're just like they were when you made them. Because if you try to heat potatoes up by putting them in a pot and adding more liquid to them, it changes the potatoes. They're not the same as when you first made them, and it dilutes them, and they never taste the same. If you, just check on this for a second. So if you try to heat your potatoes yeah, that's right, 27, 350. If you try to reheat your potatoes in the microwave, they sometimes will get, what do you call it, rubbery around the edges, and that's not good. They don't usually turn out good. You can try to heat your mashed potatoes in the oven in a big, like a baking pan. Some people do that, and they might be okay. But I'm telling you, that simmering water trick works really well. Gravy you can make the day before because you can just reheat it in a pot. Cranberry sauce you can make the day before because in my cranberry sauce, I'm just taking a bag of fresh cranberries, adding some water, some kind of sweetener like maple syrup, date sugar, zest of an orange, and some fresh orange juice. Bring it to a boil, let it simmer for 10 minutes, and then you have a delicious homemade cranberry sauce. Much better than the canned stuff. So yeah, make cranberries the day before. Corn casserole, that could be made the day before and reheated in the oven. And all of my corn casserole is cornmeal, like a cornbread element, vegetables, wet ingredients are the corn, and some cashew milk. And what we're just combining this cornbreadish mixture along with the corn mixture and some liquid, put it in a pan, and it cooks up to be like it's almost like a cornbread, but it's a soft cornbread, like a corn pudding almost, but it's really good. That was one thing. Hi, Lynn. One thing that I went to somebody's Thanksgiving potluck, and it wasn't plant-based, but they had stuff like broccoli, rice, corn casserole, apple sausage. They had all these things, and they were all the family tradition things. And I kept thinking, I can't make that. I need to learn how to make those things so that when I have people over for Thanksgiving, I can make some of their family favorites. So that's how I came up with all this. And then I'm not going to make rolls this year. I think I did a whole video about how I'm going to make my seeded sourdough bread. So that's something that you can make ahead and you can freeze bread, but it tastes a lot better when it's freshly baked. So my plan was to make fresh seeded sourdough bread. And then the pecan pie is in here. The other thing is I had a glazed tofu roast in my recipe packet, and I've made this many, many times. And it's just, taking extra firm tofu, putting it in a marinade, baking it, and glazing it. And it's really good. It kind of, it's like a tofu ham. I hate to use the word ham, but that's kind of what it reminds you of. It has a mustard and sweet glaze, and it's really good. I've had it many times. And I also have a bonus recipe for broccoli salad. The old broccoli salad with red cabbage, broccoli florets, raisins, apples, almonds, and then there's a creamy dressing. So if you like broccoli salad, and looking at this makes me want to make broccoli salad because, when you're eating all the heavier food, mashed potatoes, plant loaf, whatever that is, things that are brown, it's really refreshing to have a crunchy salad. So when you go through, if you get my recipe packet and video, if you get the video, I make the whole thing on the video. You don't have to watch it. You could just use the recipes. But when you look at the list of all the recipes in this recipe packet, don't make everything. Pick out your favorites. But keep in mind that with every kind of hot, savory dish, it's good to have something that's offers a contrast. Something crunchy, something sweet, sour, like vinegar, something with vinegar. That's why pickles are good. We're down to 3 minutes. So, I'll get this out of the oven so you can see it. And we'll have to wait till it completely cools before I cut it. But basically, I just wanted to share with you one of the desserts that I'm making for Thanksgiving and kind of go over all the other options for things to have at your Thanksgiving table. Some of the things I'm going to make live for you in the next few days will be the sweet potato casserole. I plan to make the corn casserole. So that's something I could make maybe on Wednesday. I'm not sure what else I'm going to make this year. I'll make my bean plant loaf with beans, and the tofu. I'm not going to make that this year, but I haven't made that many years. So somebody comment. I think 41 people are watching. So is there something that you're struggling with that you want to make for Thanksgiving, but don't know how to convert it to a plant-based, oil-free recipe? And I'll wait. I'll watch for it. If there's something that you need a little help with, let me know, because I may have a recipe around that I can just, share in the comments later on. So just let me know. And also, the more people you have coming for your Thanksgiving dinner, the more complicated it is to make all these things ahead of time. I just know that it's when you're feeding your family, you can make enough for your family. But if you have to make things for 12 people, which I think I'm going to have 11 people here for Thanksgiving. So it gets a little bit more complicated because you need more. You need to have enough for a lot of people. So it's not just 3 or 4 potatoes, and it becomes, for my family, their favorite thing is the mashed potatoes. So whenever I make mashed potatoes for the crowd of people coming to my house, they don't just eat a serving. They want to eat like the equivalent of 3 servings of mashed potatoes each. So it's kind of like, well, let's see, 11 people, I need 30 servings of mashed potatoes. So that means I need to get my giant pot out and make a lot of potatoes and then rice them all and, make them. So, that's a lot of work. That's why you can't save everything for the last day, because if you do, you're going to find yourself scrambling around. Okay, I think it's close enough to being done. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. Whew, it's kind of dark, but it looks good. Looks perfect. Okay, you made it to the end. If you're still watching, let's see. 42 people are watching. So look at the beautiful, and I can tell it's done. Look how dark it's gotten around the edges. So these are the pecan pie bars. It's gotten higher too. So you can tell it's not super flat. It's got some height to it. And on my picture in my cookbook, the pecan pie bars, they look very substantial. They look like a piece of pie. So I think you'd be really pleased with them, with the size of them. And look how many you could get from this 13 by 9 pan. I can cut. And I'll probably cut them kind of small because some people are bringing pies to Thanksgiving. So other people are bringing food. So this is not going to be the only dessert. So I'll cut them really small. And that way people can just have a small, sample bite of this. They don't have to fill up on it. Because I hate waste. I hate it when people get all these different things to eat, but they don't eat them and they just throw them away. That happens with my family. Their eyes are bigger than their stomachs. So make the pecan pie bars. I will post the recipe today. It's different. The recipe that's in my PDF ebook thing that's available online, there's a recipe for pecan pie bars, but I changed it. This is the first time I've ever made it this way. So don't get your old book out and use that recipe. I changed it, and I actually used the base of my peanut butter bars for the pecan pie bars because I like that base better than the old one. So I made up a new recipe, which is stuff that I do all the time because I like to create new recipes. So that's it for now. So happy that so many of you came on to watch this. And I think you'll really love this recipe if you make it. Even if you're not plant-based, it's a very delicious way to use the seasonal pecans that you'll see everywhere now. And I hope you make it. And if you do, let me know how it turned out. And I will get off now and start working on writing my recipe up. It's just a bunch of notes on paper right now. And I'm getting anxious about making all the holiday foods next week because I love that time of year. I love making all that food. It was one of my happiest times of the year when my father was at one of the few times he would cook for us, and he was a really good cook. And so I have really happy memories of his cooking on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And maybe I'll write about that. I bet that would be a fun thing to write about, the good and the bad. But I might write about why I love Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners so much. So everybody, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will be coming on to make more Thanksgiving-themed foods in the next few days. Bye-bye.